starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the podcast series. I am, of course, your host with the most, the podcast mogul, Phil Better. And today I'm happy to have DJ Scoob himself from the Undiscovered Entrepreneur podcast. DJ Scoob, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thanks, Phil.
I love that laugh. It's so amazing. DJ Scoob, I know a little bit about yourself. We've had a great conversation beforehand. I'm just going to ask you to introduce yourself quickly to my audience so that they can get to know you as well.
Absolutely. So my name is DJ Scoob. My real name is Jesse Blount, but for obvious reasons, everybody calls me DJ Scoob. And I am the host of the Undiscovered Entrepreneur podcast, where we interview brand new entrepreneurs that are just getting started in their business. And we just kind of learn from each other, and we get to learn from them, and you get to learn from them, and I get to learn from them. Everybody gets to learn from everybody about how to start an entrepreneur adventure.
I love it. It's pretty much similar to the Invest in Yourself, the digital entrepreneur podcast, but you're dealing with all entrepreneurs. I focus in on the digital entrepreneurs, but I love it because we came at it with the same idea. We need to learn how to be an entrepreneur. So you're like, who better than us than entrepreneurs who are just starting out, right?
That's right. And I really think that we can learn from each other, even though we're just getting started in our entrepreneur adventure. We all have a lot that we can offer each other, experiences that we had, failures that we've had, and to learn from each other. So it's pretty amazing. I also think that I listen to a lot of podcasts going on, and I think a lot of this podcast right now kind of hone in on entrepreneurs that have already kind of taken their adventure. They've been a few years in there, and of course we could all learn something from them. But I really think sometimes we really need to get to the nitty gritty of the people that are just getting started. And that's why I decided to do what I do.
I think it's a great thing because when you hear from entrepreneurs who are well established, like if we look at the Tim Ferriss, Pat Flynn's of the world, or even the Gary V's on the thing, we don't feel connected because it's like 15, 20 years that they've been in the game. So we're like, oh, they don't remember what it's like. It's completely different. Whereas when you're talking to someone who's like a year into their game, it's like, oh, they're only a year ahead of me. So their struggles are something I can relate to because they know what it's going through. So I love that you decided, hey, I'm going to focus in on the young entrepreneurs, the ones who are just started out, no matter of their real age, but they're just starting out in the world and trying to make it on their own. Now, is this something that you specifically chose to go after because it's something that you wanted to be like you want to learn to be an entrepreneur, or is it something completely like you're like, I just like talking to entrepreneurs or people who wanted to be entrepreneurs?
No, I actually specifically wanted to talk to brand new entrepreneurs because I'm a brand new entrepreneur. I'm just getting started my adventure. And I felt that we could have that connection like we were talking about earlier of being brand new entrepreneurs. And I can learn from anybody that I talk to on my podcast. So I'm learning from anybody I talk to. And then just kind of as a byproduct, if anybody listens to the podcast, they're able to learn from them too.
Awesome. No, I love that. So how long have you been you've been doing podcasting?
Technically, probably for about 6 months, maybe a little bit less. I went through a little bit of a hiccup. I started 3 months in with a podcast, but due to a family problem, I had to rebrand. So I got to go through that whole rigmarole of how to rebrand a podcast. And then I've been about 3 months in. I got 10 episodes in right now, and I'm loving every second of it. It's just been such an amazing adventure.
All right. So why did you choose the form of podcasting instead of doing blogs or vlogs or anything of the other nature? What was it about a podcast that you really chose? Like, why did you choose podcasting to jump into it?
No, good question. I like that. The reason I chose podcasting is because it kind of resonates me. I'm a terrible writer. It takes me forever to write anything. So I'm not going to do the blog thing. And the video thing is a little bit techie for me, and I'm still trying to learn how to do that. I do have a couple of YouTube videos out, but they're still kind of sketchy because I'm just getting started that. But I just love to talk to people. My whole life, I've talked to people. I've dealt with the public. I sold cars for 16 years. So I kind of got an idea how to talk to people and kind of get ideas. And I've been a server for 10 years. So kind of the same idea. I talk to other people. So all this talking just kind of fits in with the audio of what I like to do. So it just
Yeah.
kind of fit my personality a lot better than just pretty much any other kind of tech that's out there. So it just kind of worked out.
No, it's true. And you also got that great voice. You do your Scooby voice every once in a while, but you also have that great, clear voice that people can understand you. And that's obviously comes from working in the service industry, either as a car salesman or working as a waiter. If you can't pronounce, enunciate properly, you'll never make it. So, and it translates great to podcasting. Now, you mentioned that you listen to a lot of podcasts.
Right.
Is there a certain podcast that you're like, yes, this is a podcast that people need to listen to?
I think you asked that question on purpose. I
Yeah.
actually listen to, I listen to you, Phil. I actually am getting into your stuff a little bit, but I think the main person that I actually listened to was Pat Flynn, like you mentioned a little bit earlier. I have listened to all 547 plus episodes that he's put out. I've been listening to it for 8 hours a day for the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, from episode 1 all the way up to what he has going today. And that has completely expanded not only my knowledge about entrepreneurship, but how to properly run a podcast. Also, I listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire with JLD. And if
Yeah.
you listen to a lot of what I do in my podcast, the way he asks his questions is very similar to the way I ask my questions. So what I do for my podcast is I take pieces and bits of everybody else's awesome podcasts and kind of mishmash them together to make my podcast. Because if I could take the best parts of everybody else's there goes that mess up thing again. I still do stumble my words every once in a while. But if I take pieces of everybody else's awesome podcast and turn them into my podcast, I think it really is a formula for some great things to happen.
No, that's super important. I don't think podcasters or new podcasters understand that borrowing the styles of other podcasters is the only way you're going to learn to create your own style. Like, no one knows, there's no book yet out on like how to create your own style as a podcaster. It's trial and error, but the fastest way is like, well, this works for Pat. I really enjoy that aspect of Pat. I'm going to bring that into mine. And I love how JLD writes or formulates his questions. So I'm going to bring that into it. And I like how this podcaster does his intros and that. You bring that all in, and it starts, you kind of mold it into your personality. So I love how you're doing that, and it's a great piece of advice for beginner podcasters. Now, you've been podcasting for under 6 months now, roughly. What are some maybe tips that you have for podcasters? Because this is obviously a podcast for one to discover new podcasts, but also to learn from podcasters if you want to jump into it. So what are some tips you have for someone who's thinking about jumping into podcasting?
My first tip is to start right now, start today. Don't wait around, record something, get your foot in the door, just do anything. Like, start right now. I'd like, stop listening to this and do it. No, I'm just kidding. We want to finish.
Wait till the end of the episode and then start.
Start something. Yeah, there you go. So, but record anything. It's what I did with my first recording. My first recording ever on Zoom was with my son. And I was talking about his brand new job he just started, and I interviewed him about his job. And then I went back and edited it, and I just kind of experiment with it and see where my mojo was, where things were working for me, and where I needed to improve on before I put anything out there. Another thing you want to make sure to do is make sure you pick your niche, the thing that you're going to actually talk about. That's really important, because sometimes you get a subject that's too broad, and you're talking about way too big a thing, and nobody's going to want to listen to you because your subject is just way too big, too broad. So if you niche down, and then you niche down again, and then you niche down till it hurts. I heard that. And you get to one thing that just really resonates with you. You could talk all day about it. And, people are like, can you shut up, please? I'm trying to talk. No, I want to talk about this. That's your podcast. That's what you really want to get into. Equipment right now is really simple to get into. A lot of servers right now, you just need your phone. You don't even need fancy microphones and things like that. You just need your phone, and then just kind of build up from there. A lot of my equipment is really super simple. I got a Yeti Nano. And my walls, you can't see it right now, but my walls have just a foam that I found somewhere on the sides to insulate some of the sound. I glued them onto a bed sheet, and now I'm surrounded by this foam. But it was easy to do. I just happened to find it. So the barrier of entry is really small right now to get started, and then you just kind of build from there. You grow. You decide if you want to do a solo or if you want to do interview style of podcast. Sometimes you do a music style of podcast. It's just whatever you feel that you can talk about all the time, or what really inspires you to talk, and then it just kind of grows from there.
Oh no, I love it. It's true. It's the best thing. Just start. Like you said, just start. And like with Anchor, you have all you need to do is record on your phone. Right there, you can do your solos. And how you did it with Zoom. Like Zoom allows you to record for free. And then it downloads it for you automatically, and boom, you upload the audio and you're good to go. And then it's just the promotion side, which a lot of people don't understand how much work promoting a podcast is. Now,
It really is. Yeah, yeah. It was hard for me too getting started. I had no idea what I was doing. That's why I kind of went into, learning from Pat Flynn. A lot of what I do, I actually learned from Pat Flynn how to promote. Social media is a really good place to promote, and another great place to promote is to get on other people's podcasts. Haha. So
it's the number one key. I think John talks about it. I know Pat talks about it. Travis Chappell talks about it.
Mhm, mhm.
He even launched Guestio specifically for other people to get on podcasts. That's how you grow your thing. I have to do more of it, of getting on podcasts. I'm just so busy interviewing so many amazing people, allowing them to have access to the platform. But yeah, that's another great tip. Being a guest on a podcast is like the second best way of growing your podcast.
Exactly. What's the first way, Phil?
Having a podcast
There
and
you go.
talking about it, word of mouth, making sure you talk to everybody about the podcast that you see in a day. You go, hey, do you listen to podcasts? Yeah, well, I have a podcast. It's about this. Would it be something you're interested in? No. Okay, cool. Boom, move on. But that it's going to sit in their head. You're going to sit in their
Exactly.
head.
I'll give you a little tip on that too. Here's something that I've actually done. Some of us might have thought about it, not, but you can make your own QR code.
Mhm.
So what I've done is actually physically found a QR code, made it, and I have it taped to the back of my cell phone. So if I need to talk to anybody that has an interest in cell phones, here, scan this QR code real quick. Boop. There's your podcast. It's right there on their phone now. All they have to do is hit follow and 5-star or whatever, and now you have somebody to follow your podcast.
That's genius. Guess what I'm doing after this? I'm going to go create my own QR code for the podcasts
There you go.
that I have. Oh my God, I'm going to have to make like 45 freaking QR. No, I know what I'm going to do.
No,
I'm going
there
to
you go.
just have one QR code linked to a link tree with all the other all my
There
podcasts there.
that'll be a little simpler for you, Phil.
Yeah, probably than having like 18. So what kind of podcast do you like? Hold on, let me get the right QR code for you. Now you've been following, like you said, you've been following Pat Flynn and reading up and listening to his stuff. What was it about Pat Flynn specifically that drew you to him?
He's the one that taught me how to podcast. I mean, he was the one that really kind of simplified it, broke it down for me to where I, even as a techie idiot, can understand how to plug in a microphone and how to record something. And it took it step by step. And then I did go on YouTube to find a few other things, like how to edit my podcast in Audacity. I found a fantastic 1-hour tutorial that told me everything from A to Z how to edit my podcast. If when any group said, how do you edit your podcast? I always shoot them that video just so they can learn the same way I did. So Pat Flynn was really the gentleman that taught me how to podcast from A to Z. So I just kind of stuck with him. I like the way he presented himself. He's really super authentic and real. I think that's really what it boils down to, is he's real about what he does. He's an open book about everything that goes on around him too. And he's a big family guy, and I'm a family guy. So it just kind of messes all together into just a gentleman that I really can trust and follow.
Yeah, you have enough similarities that you're like, okay, he's a family man. He's open books like I am. He's caring, he's sharing. And then it's like, on top of it, he's teaching people how to podcast. I think I will follow him. And he's a great guy. I follow him because of just because he's the leader of the industry. Like he's one of the top podcasters in the industry, and he's the one who's sharing it. And if you're not following someone who's teaching stuff, like, yes, Joe Rogan is the top of the industry, but he's not teaching people how to podcast. He's just putting out content. He's a
Yeah.
content producer versus you have someone like Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas, who's teaching people like, hey, this is how you can podcast and you can make money. And the fact that they're interlinked is even better.
Yeah, it's so funny to hear their story about how they met at the podcasting convention, and how Pat Flynn kind of took him in, taught him a little bit, then he just kind of JLD just kind of took off with it, but they're still real good friends.
Yeah, and I was reading John Lee Dumas's book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, an amazing book. I personally think it's the podcaster's Bible. If you're looking to make podcasting a living, this is your Bible. Like, this is how the blueprint of how you can do it, pretty much. And he talks about how he got Tim Ferriss, another legend in the podcasting world for entrepreneurs, how he got him into his mastermind, just talking to
Right.
him in the mastermind, and I was like just blown away by that. But yeah, it's insane how Pat Flynn is like kind of like the central person who has helped so many of the huge podcasters grow, because he's just so open with his stuff, and he is at the top of my dream guest list to
Oh,
have
he's
him
up
on
there
the
for me
show.
too. He's definitely
Oh,
up there for me too. As a matter of fact, I interviewed Cliff Ravenscraft on my show not too long ago. So
mhm.
I'm kind of building up, because he's actually a part of Pat Flynn's mastermind. And then I also just joined SBI Pro, and I just literally just got into it yesterday. So I'm really excited about that, to be
Ooh,
able to talk to him.
that's going to
Yeah.
be a great thing. That is an amazing thing that he's launched, and he just recently launched that he did a contest for podcasters.
Yeah. The power
Pitch
of
it.
podcasting. Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. I unfortunately I already had a podcast, so I couldn't get into
Yeah,
it. But
I was like, oh, I'll pitch. I'm like, wait, no, I have like 18 podcasts. I can't afford another one at
yeah.
this time. I think someone's gonna go, Phil, you need an intervention. You have too many podcasts. Um, where do you want your podcast to go? Like, what is it? What's your dream destination with your podcast?
Well, my end product, boy, I got a couple things in mind for my end product. Now, I still want to be a DJ and a music DJ. That's still part of what I want to do at the end product. So DJ Skill will actually have a DJ kind of thing at the end of it. But ultimately, too, I want to learn how to be a coach. I want to learn how to help other people in their entrepreneur adventure. Um, I wouldn't mind my podcast becoming my sole source of income if possible. Doesn't have to be, because I mean, if I'm as long as I'm helping people, that's really what it boils down to for me. Is I want to help as many people as I can, and if I make money doing it, great. If not, hey, I'm still okay too. But I wouldn't mind quitting the 2 jobs that I'm working right now just to keep my head below water, and and be able to do what I'm doing right now a job. Well, not even a job, just more of an adventure than anything else. So um, it would just be a dream for me to sit down and have people come to me and say, "Hey, DJ Scoop, what do you think of this?" And I could sit down with them and say, "This is what I think, but what do you think?" That kind of thing. So, and
Yeah,
just kind
no.
of be more of a coach in that kind of aspect. So,
There you go. It's a great thing. Like I do help. I do coach on the side for podcasters and help them grow and show them different ways of monetizing their podcast. Because I like making people money. Making money is so simple. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's just because podcasters are so like stuck because they're so close to their product. They don't get to see like the tree from the forest. They don't see the forest because they're so close to that tree. Having an outside perspective, having a coach, a consultant just go, hey, have you tried doing this? And then it's like just like a light bulb just pops off. It's an
right.
amazing, it's so much fun seeing them just have that light bulb go off and they're like, wait, that's possible?
I actually listened. I've been since I finished Pat Flynn's podcast. I've been going into Ask Pat and listening to
Oh,
his coaching into that. And I've been listening to that. I've also been watching a lot of his older speaking engagements. He doesn't do them anymore, but I definitely would love to get into speaking engagements as well too. So I've been
I
kind of
can
following up on that.
that doing a speaking engagements is so It's a different thing because I've had the opportunity to speak at for a charity and teaching them how to podcast and the power of podcasting, because it's a charity called City by Year or City Year in the UK, and I think they're all over the place. And they're starting a podcast, and they're like, we need someone to teach us about podcasting and teach us the benefits of having a podcast. And they luckily reached out to me because of a mutual contact, and it's amazing. It's so one, it's nerve wracking of all hell because here you're going like, yeah, I've been podcasting for 6 years, but I'm no expert. I know a few things, and then they're like, "Yeah, can you? We have an expert." I'm like, oh god, the panic, the anxiety coming through. So look forward for that anxiety coming when you start doing your first speeches and that. Um, so yeah, you want to go into speeching. What would you talk on it on your in your talks?
A couple of things I've actually thought about. How to build a brand for yourself is something I'd really like to talk about. It's going from even just like logos and how to kind of personalize your logo to your personality, not just like you as a person, but experiences that you've had in your lifetime. Like my logo here is, yeah, this is a pug,
Mhm.
and I can't use Scooby Doo's likeness because Scooby Doo is owned by Warner Brothers, and I don't want to get in trouble. So my
Yeah, yeah.
daughter made Scooby Doo into a pug, and then put the piano tie on him, and I had a logo. Ta-da! And that really says me, because this is what I am. This is who I am, and I took my personality and my experiences in my life and turned it into a logo. So something like that. Also, just to talk about experiences in podcasting, and things that have come about that would never have came to into my life if I wasn't a podcaster. Things of that nature, I think, would be good.
No, I love that. And I want to touch back. We're going to go back to your podcast and these entrepreneurials because I remember when we were sitting down in our pre-interview, you mentioned that you interview someone and then 6 months to a year later, you bring them back to see
Right.
their point in the journey. Now I'm interested, the ones that you've had the ability to re-interview,
Mhm.
have you seen a significant jump in their entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. I have finally got a hold of one person, Philip Hughes. Philip Hughes was in my episode 2. I just
Mhm.
recently re-interviewed him again, and that will be coming out. And then I think next month, or his 6-month follow-up. He had a lot of mindset changes at that time. He actually experienced having to shut down one of the businesses he worked on to
Ooh.
concentrate on another one, which was actually a good thing. He also has a podcast, and he actually talks about his experiences in making his analytic program. And he had a couple other things going, but he realized he wasn't able to concentrate on his main program, which was elementary analytics. Now, so he decided to shut everything else down and concentrate on just elementary analytics. And as soon as he did that, he started to see everything start pick up again and that kind of thing. So he learned that in that 6 months or so that we were out, we weren't talking to each other, just so he learns and grows. But I mean, we go through everything in our follow-up interview.
Oh, I love that. And I'm looking forward to hearing it. And I'm definitely going to jump back to the first episode, the second episode, so I can hear his original. And I like that idea of revisiting your guests. And I think I'm going to have to start reaching out to some of the former entrepreneurs and have them bring them back for a recap season, so I can get to know like what's going on, where they are in their journey, and how badass they've become
Yeah, exactly.
since we first started. But what are some, maybe a lesson or two that you've learned from your entrepreneurs that you've interviewed in their early stages of their journey that you have been able to apply into your journey?
We actually touched on it a little bit earlier. My first 5 episodes, all 5 of them said, "Just get started." I mean, and it wasn't me like coaxing him to say it or anything like that. All of them said, "Oh, by the way, a really good word of advice: just get started." And and there's other ones too. But it's amazing to me that the first 5 people that I interview all had the same advice: just get started. So because of that, I decided to just get started on my YouTube channel and just get started in blogging, and just things that I wasn't really strong with. I decided to just go ahead and do it anyway and just learn from it there. Now, the other thing I'd like to touch on when we talk about just getting started is my tagline and my mantra. And the thing about it is, it actually came from my son when he was 6 years old, and he said, "I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today." And to have something that strong come out.
Hold the phone.
Okay.
A 6-year-old told you this.
Well, when he was 6, yeah, he's 14 now. So
No, I'm still blown away that a 6-year-old had logic of like a 96-year-old.
yeah, well, he's a smart kid.
That is amazing. That is like the worldliest advice I have ever heard, and it's coming out of a mouth of a 16-year-old. That is impressive.
Well, yeah, when he was 6, he has many talents. He plays 4 different instruments. He does computer programming. He reads constantly. He doesn't get it from me though. He gets it from mom. I could tell you that. But to have, but ever since he said that, he's had that posted on his wall. I have it posted on my wall here in the room, and I have it posted and talked about on every single podcast at the end. I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. And even just that saying has changed the thought process of Phil. Actually told me he wrote it down on his whiteboard after I was done talking with him on episode 2. You know, people actually taking it to heart.
I'm going to be clipping that, and that's going to be like I'm just going to play it every morning. Boom.
There you go.
Got DJ Scoob waking me up in the morning with the wisdom of a 6-year-old. I can't believe the 6-year-old is why. Wow.
I can only imagine where he's going to go to when he
I'm slightly scared of where he's going to go, because with that mindset, like it can go one of two ways. He could become the hero of the ages, or he becomes the villain.
Well, yeah, he could be too smart. See,
yeah. It's going to be like using like wow. And that's wisdom. Like that's huge wisdom for like a 6-year-old to know, because that's the level of confidence and attitude that's he's not going to be stopped, or your son or won't be stopped, because he's going to go because he knows he can do it.
That's right. Starting
at exactly 6. Right. Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's really what pushes him to accomplish what he accomplishes daily. So yeah, and I'll always give him the accolades for saying that, as long as he wants to be.
That is some amazing advice. Like you've dropped some amazing bombs of advice here, and even your son is dropping bombs of advice over here as well. I'm still like completely baffled by your son's wisdom.
Easy, Phil. Okay.
Jeez. Yeah. So hot in here, is it just me? My brain's overreacting from all this heat. No. So your son is dropping wisdom. You're interviewing amazing people who are providing you with a great advice for their beginning journeys, just like you're in there, and you're dropping that as well. And your audience gets to go along your journey as well, because I'm pretty sure you share a bit of your journey in your podcast, right?
Yeah, at the end of every podcast, I actually have a little bit about what I'm doing myself as an entrepreneur, where I'm at. Like, for example, I don't know if you know who Chris Brogan is.
Vaguely.
Okay. Chris Brogan is a very famous podcaster, entrepreneur. He's written a few books. And thanks to Twitter, which is my new friend now, I've been able to reach out to him and talk to him. And he has challenged me to put together a 300-person speaking engagement for him. And if I'm able to do that and sell 300 of his books at that engagement, he waives all his fees. So his speaking fees, his food and lodgings and all that, he's waiving all of that to come out to speak at the speaking engagement to promote. So what I'm doing is since episode 3 on, I've been actually documenting what I'm doing to put this speaking engagement together. So you get to follow me and my process in one of my entrepreneur adventures along with the podcast. And you just get to that's why I like starting these kind of things, because you get to watch the stories unfold and build as things go along. So, and I think that's another reason why I like doing this with brand new entrepreneurs, because we also get to follow them and their entrepreneur adventure and see where they end up. And I think that's another reason why I like to do the follow-ups too. That way you can see where they've gone in those 6 months.
Jesus, you really got a great niche and a great show, because as you grow, you're going to be bringing along other other entrepreneurs who are growing at the same level that you are. You started with, you're just a beginner, so you're getting beginners on. You may get intermediates, but also you're sharing the journey, so people can feel like, oh, this is what DJ Scoob has done. Like, look at what he's done. He's been able to get a 300-person speaking engagement. So I can do that. If he can do it, I can do it. He laid out the steps that he did it. And then the next thing is, hey, this is the next venture, and they can follow along that venture with you. And before you know it, people are going to be calling you and asking you specifically, and you'll get your coaching specifically that way. That's how I got my first coaching gig. People reached out, hey, how do I do a podcast? And it's like, well, it's like this. And it brought me to building this podcast on as a platform for podcasters like yourself, beginners, intermediates, far many more years of expertise, so that they can see it as well. But it also builds your authority as an entrepreneur,
Exactly.
or as a podcaster in my case on this one. But yeah, um, just so much. We're coming up to the end, which is unfortunate because I'm having a great time chatting with you, just like we did when we did the pre-interview. I think pre-interview is supposed to be 15 minutes. I think we went for 45 to an hour. It was
we did. Yeah.
It was a great time. And that's
Was.
why I was so excited to have you on the show, and I'm really excited to release this. But I'm going to jump off. I'm going to give you the last like 5 minutes. You don't have to use the full 5 minutes, but it is yours. Let my audience know where they can connect with you to follow along not only your journey, but your guest's journey as well in becoming an entrepreneur in the beginning stages and following up with that. Okay?
All right, Phil.
The floor is yours.
All right. Hi, everybody. It's me, DJ Scoob. Join me on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, where we talk to brand new entrepreneurs that are less than a year in their business, and we go ahead and follow up with them in 6 months to see how far they've actually gone. I do ask them what goals they have for those 6 months, so we can hold them accountable. Now, if you're listening, please just learn. That's what this is all about. Self-education is really important to me. So it's all about learning, not just learning about entrepreneurship, but learning about experiences that you've had, what you could do to motivate yourself on a day-to-day basis. And I really just would love to have anybody just go out there and contact me. You could contact me at DJ Scoob 2021. That's SKOOB on Twitter. My website, which you can get all kinds of fantastic information, including any books that are out there that I talked about on my podcast, including Pat Flynn's books. You could reach those on my storefront. I call it the resources page at uepodcast.net. So, and then if you are a brand new entrepreneur that are just getting started, I'm always up for great interviews. You can always contact me on my website, or you could email me at I'm sorry, wrong one. I got a couple of them at pianotieNtertainment@gmail.com, where we can actually sit down and have kind of I do a little bit of a pre-interview too, to make sure that everything jives the right way. But yeah, and I want to do this for y'all too. Phil, I'm going to do this for you too, just because.
Ooh.
Now you see I have piano ties all over the place here, but there's a reason why I have a piano tie on, because I can play it. All right. Phil, that was for you. All right. And anybody else that wants to? Yeah. I branded myself with this tie. This tie I've had for a really long time, and it just became a part of me. So I just kind of use it as part of my branding for my company.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, the links will be in the show notes to get in contact with Mr. DJ Scoob himself, Jesse. And if you're an entrepreneur, please do jump on. If you're a brand new entrepreneur, if you're just starting your journey, jump on, talk with him, express yourself. And maybe you never know, someone who's listening to his podcast may reach out to be a client of yours. But yes, that's going to be in the show notes. Take his advice, get started. That's always the best advice I think I've been told by all my entrepreneurs as well. Just kick down that door and just start, because you never know what's going to happen if you just don't get started. So Jesse, I want to thank you so much for being an amazing guest today on the Invest in Yourself, the podcast series.
All right. Thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, remember to always invest in yourself.